Hi, my name is Matt Sanders. I am doing my LE2 peer learning conversation about assessment, and here's my conversation. Um, I worked with two elementary students, one going into second grade this next fall, and one going into fifth grade during ESY in my local district. They both represent kind of different learning styles, different learning and language barriers, not huge different cultural backgrounds. Um, so their learning preferences are definitely very different, and their capabilities. Um, they're on very similar levels as far as math, so that's why I chose them, because the age difference, one is 7, one is 10, and seeing how they each kind of approach the assessment. So I did a formative assessment, kind of going back to an earlier part during the year that they had taken before with math, basic early addition and subtraction through word problems and pictures. They had already probably done this, or had at least learned the material. It had been a while, but they had learned the material. We had kind of gone over it a little bit in ESY, just in some of our math packets, but there was some recall that probably had to happen going back a little ways. So I picked this formative because it also has a lot of words. These word problems are quite wordy, and they are also, both students have different learning abilities and are in different levels as far as their reading and comprehension. So that also gave for a good example of what kind of the bias could be when you run into word problems in math. So the kind of the assessment bias that I noticed right away, especially with the going to be fifth grader, I'll just say fifth grader, who has a lower reading level, was that it became more of a reading assessment than a math assessment. So the student is a very hard worker, was not getting frustrated, but definitely takes quite a long time just to get through each question, because not only were they spending so much time reading, they were also spending so much time with the comprehension part and so the fluency and the comprehension part was missing. So it took a long time just to get through all the words, and then there was the understanding that needed to happen. And so that, like, the bias of the many words in the questions was affecting their ability to move through it and focus just on the math. There was a lot of focus on just the reading before we could even get to the math. The capability that surprised me the most with the fifth grader was that immediately when it came to writing equations or formulating the equations himself, they used touch points on their numbers to help and assist. That was something that I was quite surprised. I knew it was a capability, but I didn't know if they would draw on that capability without prompting. And without prompting, they began using them as they were doing their addition problems. And you can see that on the assessment, how I thought that was quite remarkable, and I thought that kind of surprised me. As far as the second grader, the reading is not an issue. The pace was much quicker, which I kind of expected, that the pace would be quick. And outside of question 1, which was a little tricky for both of them, the second grader finished the entire 4 pages faster than the fifth grader did in 2 pages. So the reading was not as much of a bias for the second grader. And math is kind of a stronger subject anyway. So that it did not surprise me. What surprised me was some of the confusion on question 1. The wording is a little bit odd. That was really the only question that was ever really asked. He was very focused. The second grader was very focused and was very quiet, only asked one question. And the fifth grader was easily distracted, was talking through every problem, reading out loud, using finger to like follow along, was happy, and was unconcerned with the amount of time it was taking. So that was kind of surprising too. Sometimes he can get a little bit frustrated, and did not really get frustrated with how long it was taking. There was no concept that question 1 should have been answered in a normal pace, a little bit quicker. So what that kind of surprised me, it kind of made me think about how this assessment, how when I was trying to revamp it or adjust it, how I was going to do that for each of them, and how many more things I was going to have to add for the fifth grader, just as far as the wording and how I could take out certain words or add in things. Because as they sat down, I basically let them know, like, I want you to take this. If you do have a question, let me know. But I'm not going to be walking you through each problem. And so I realized right away that for the fifth grader to be more successful, there was going to have to be broken down quite a bit, and modified quite a bit. So the challenge to my previous assumptions, or the assumptions coming into it, was that the reading was going to be a lot, but even for the second grader, it was not as much as I thought it was going to be. That was surprising. So